I've been following the voice of my mother, the voice of my ancestors, the voice of my conditioning and my society. But when I really got quiet, I heard my true voice, and my true voice is telling me something else. I was a fashion and beauty editor, so I didn't have on my bingo card that I was going to be like a psychic.
Everything on social media today, I feel like the algorithms are getting better and better. And they're specifically made for you to cater to your triggers. If the voice of the intuition is not louder, then it's very easy to get carried away. How do you carve out time for yourself to listen in?
What's interesting about your intuition and your soul, it is not going to be louder than the other voices in your life. It will not scream over like the media that you're watching. It is not going to yell over like what your friend is telling you to do. It's actually like much more chill and like quiet and subtle because
Hi, welcome to the show. This is your host, Orion. How are you doing? I hope life is good. And if life is a little challenging or hard, this is the conversation for you because we're going to talk about how to connect to your intuition. But also, you're strong, you're tough, you can do hard things. And most of the time, our spiritual growth happens in the hardest times, not when everything's easy. But even if you're having an easy time right now, this is still a conversation for you because you can always expand and grow and learn more and achieve more, manifest more, because you're going to learn how to detach from the noise and listening in to your inner voice with my guest, Nikki Novo. She's a best-selling author, speaker, and creator of the popular podcast Soul-Led Living. Known for her relatable, heart-centered approach to personal growth, Nikki helps people learn how to hear, trust, and follow their inner voice so they can create a life that feels true to them. A former media editor turned spiritual teacher turned modern thought leader, Nikki blends intuitive wisdom with real-life guidance to help her audience find clarity, confidence, and purpose in their careers, relationships, parenting, and beyond. Because you know what? When you're listening in, when you are connected to your true self, your higher self, your intuition, your inner guidance, that is when you're on the path, and all kinds of unforeseen opportunities and growth and beautiful things come into your life. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hi, Nikki. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
oh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Yeah, before we begin, maybe you can share with me a beautiful childhood memory.
Oh, childhood memory. Jeez. You know what's coming up for me is like the very simple things. Like I'm just remembering going to a little lake with my dad and these like tiny fishing poles and just fishing, even though I didn't even know what I was doing, and just being with my siblings. And it kind of just reminds me that like it is like the most simple things in life that are like enjoyable. So those are my favorite memories. Like almost like when my parents could just chill and just like enjoy. Like I think those
Oh,
were like, yeah, the best memories.
that's beautiful. Yeah, man, I miss Miami because we used to live on a lake, and like it's so pretty there. Gosh, it's so beautiful.
Miami is like the reincarnation of Atlantis. Like it is, if you go there, you're like, oh, this place. Yeah. And I grew up there and it wasn't always like that. It has grown a ton and like changed a ton, but it's just so beautiful. It's like you just can't beat it. It's just so beautiful.
So, what was your spiritual journey like? How did you start owning your teachings? When did you know, like, okay, I experienced this, now I can teach this?
Yeah. I think every kind of spiritual journey begins with an awakening. So I don't know if like you remember your awakenings, and I think they continue to happen. But my first ever awakening that I was aware of, I was in my early 20s and I was engaged very young to my high school sweetheart because I grew up Cuban, Catholic. My parents were very traditional. I always say there was like this ongoing message of like you leave your parents' house either in a white dress or in a casket, like that's kind of the only way. That was like the only way I was like getting out of that house. And I, met a good Cuban boy and he was a professional baseball player. So I was like, perfect. This guy's like my ticket out. And we had been together for many years. And 2 months before our scheduled wedding, I decided to take a trip with my girlfriends to New York City because we had another friend who was getting her master's over there. And I feel like now looking back as a 43-year-old woman who eventually did get married, I was like, wow, like no bride really like goes out and like parties like 2 months before their wedding when like nothing was done. Like the wedding was not even prepared, but I was like, I need to get out of here. So I left. I went to New York City and I was in Rockefeller Center, which is like a very loud, crowded place. And I just had a moment alone while my friends were like getting coffee at Dean and DeLuca's. And I'm just kind of like looking. And all of a sudden, I hear this voice like in my ears. And the voice was very clear and very authoritative. And it was different than like kind of your own chatter, like you kind of hear yourself talk and things like this. Like this was like something I had never experienced before. And the voice told me, you are made for something bigger. And it was basically like telling me that this path that I was on was not the right path, that there was like something more. And I
Mm.
was so afraid to hear that voice because it was such an inconvenient voice because I was really trying to just put my head down, do the right thing, marry this person, get a good job, had a plan, get a good job, like finish university, all those kind of things. And this voice was deep down inside. I had thought that I had heard something similar months before, years before, but I was really trying to not listen to it. And it was so interesting how New York, which is like such a loud place, how that was like the place that I could pause and actually hear myself and hear that inner voice. And that hearing that inner voice changed the trajectory of my life because I came home. I like told my mom, who was very traditional, I was like, I think that there might be something else for me. Like maybe this is not it. And my mom, being like the good girl that she is, and she looked at me and she said, well, Nicole, some people are just meant to be a wife and have children. And like, that's great. And that's like enough. And I respect that because my mom was that. And I'm so grateful for the mom that I had. And I honor like the work that she did. But I just knew that like that wasn't my truth.
Mm.
And it really made me understand that like there is these voices outside of us that we always hear, and they can be much louder than the voice within us. And I just kind of in that moment could see the difference. I was like, oh, I've been following like the voice of my mother, the voice of my ancestors, probably the voice of my conditioning and my society. But when I really got quiet, I heard my true voice, and my true voice is like telling me something else.
Mm.
So, like spoiler alert, I called off the wedding, and it was very difficult and made all these changes. I left Miami and I moved to LA because I wanted to work in the film industry and made all these changes in my life. And that was like the beginning of me really honing that skill. Like I was like, ooh, there's like something about this thing. Like maybe I can learn to listen to it better, hear it more, like follow it. And I felt like I was rewarded right away because as soon as I called off the wedding, I felt better. It wasn't like my life necessarily changed,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt like not trapped, and I felt like myself, and I felt I was rewarded by just like following this voice. So I told myself like, what if I could just follow this voice always? Like what kind of life would I live? And I didn't know like a ton of like what that voice is. I didn't have like a name for it. I just knew it was mine. So then later on in my work, I like deeper and deeper got into it and realized that perhaps it was intuition. And I learned that because at first I thought it was just like my heart like telling me where to go. Like I didn't understand that I was like mind, body, and spirit. I just thought like this is like the heart version of myself. But then I would say later in my mid 20s, I had another experience, like another awakening that made me understand that I was mind, body, and spirit. And that my intuition, that voice was the voice of my soul. And like what I really wanted to follow was my soul. So I followed it all the way to training myself to be very intuitive. I guess I had signs as a kid, but I didn't know that I was intuitive. And then I got like really interested in like learning how to not only hear that inner voice, but like trust it and like make it very accurate and figure out like when it was right and when it was wrong. So that's how I studied intuition. And that's how, yeah. And then I ended up here.
So, what was the second awakening in your mid 20s? Because you were in the film industry. Were you an actress or a producer? What did you do there?
No, I studied public relations. So
Okay.
I just loved I've always loved media and creativity. So I worked at film studios doing public relations. And then I had this love for writing that I discovered while I was there. So I moved back to Miami and became an editor. So I was an editor at like fashion and beauty magazines for a while. And I loved that job. I was like so happy there. I loved like expressing and writing and all that kind of stuff. And during that time, I feel like I learned a lot of my lessons like through men and like romantic relationships. So I met this other guy. I was in a relationship with him for about 2 years. And I really felt like my intuition brought me to that person. Like I felt that same voice that I was following before led me to this person. So I interpreted that voice as like, okay, like this is my person. Like just lock in, like this is it. So 2 years later, when he broke up with me out of nowhere, I was very confused. Like I was like, wait a second. I've been following this voice. It has rewarded me for like all these years since I've been following for like 5 or 6 years now. And I really like needed to understand like how I got that one wrong. So it brought me to my first psychic. So I grew up Catholic and Cuban. So being like going to a psychic or a big, an
Big
intuitive
no
was like a
no.
big no no. Yes. Like you're going to get like struck down by lightning. But I had a friend who was also Cuban Catholic, and she's like the kind of friend that like, I don't know, like if you have to like bury a body, like she probably knows somebody. Like it's that kind.
Everybody needs a friend like that.
Yeah, you always have that friend in that back pocket. I'm like, this is the one that probably, and I like remember reaching out to her and I'd be like, I feel like you would know a psychic. And she's like, I have like three of them, you know? She's like, yes, I know many of them. So she was the first that like brought me to my first psychic. And the first experience was like really crazy and like, was exactly what I was fearing, that this person told me I was cursed and then I was never going to be happy. And it was like everything that my mom told me to fear when it came to intuitives. But I didn't give up. And serendipitously, a second intuitive came my way, and she was an angel reader. So she like read angels. And I thought, okay, like, angels are in the Bible. Like, this should be okay. Like, this shouldn't be scary. So I went to her and she was fantastic. She was so supportive and she knew so much about me and she predicted a lot of things that have happened till this day. And it really like opened me up. And one of the things that was very strange that happened at the end of the reading, I was, taking in all her information. And I said something to her that like I didn't expect myself to say, but I looked at her and I was like, do you think I could do what you do? Do you think like, can I be intuitive? And she was so great. She was like one of the first people that made me understand that intuitives or people that are psychic or anything like that, they're not superhumans. Like, and I think that that's what we've been taught for sure, that like you're either born with the gift or you're not. She was really one of the first people that was like, oh no, everybody has this gift. Some people have it more developed than others, but you can absolutely like learn to be intuitive and psychic and get better. And that was what I was missing. Like, because that voice that told me to follow that relationship that blew up in my face, that intuition was correct, right? Like it was follow through on this relationship. Like this is significant. But what happened was that my ego added to that intuitive message. So I said, the intuition was follow this relationship, like go towards this relationship. And then my ego said, because you're going to be with them forever.
Mm.
So it's like, I needed my ego, our ego, like needs the guarantee. Like I was like, if you're going to make me open up my heart and be like available and vulnerable for this person, I'm only going to do it if I'm guaranteed. And at the moment I needed that guarantee. So I added a guarantee to my intuition. Later, as I've studied intuition, I've learned that intuition does not give guarantees. There's a ton of mystery and a ton of unknown when you follow your soul and your intuition. But in the beginning, like I really was looking for, these guarantees. So when I met the psychic and she told me that I could study and that I could learn, I was like, amazing. I'll never make a mistake again. I'm going to learn to be like the most intuitive person so that I never get my heart hurt again. I'm going to kill it. This is great. I just learned like the greatest hack of life. And that was really like what inspired me to study my intuition was like
Yeah, to
really to
become
be
an
perfect.
invisible sorcerer of sorts.
Yes, to become perfect, basically. I was like, I'd like to be a wizard. Thank you very much. And I would like to predict everything and just cruise through life. And I think I teach intuition now. And I have, hundreds and hundreds of students. And I think many of them come to me for that reason too. And I never would ever shame that or, because it's like whatever gets you through the door gets you through the door. And I needed something at the time to really like fill this void that I was just really hurt at the time. So I studied, and I got really into like the metaphysics. I took a course in Reiki. Like I took a Reiki certification. And after the second Reiki certification, I just started to see energy. So I was like activated. Yeah, I was activated through like different things. And I would sit in meditation and I like learned to read energy, which is super cool, which is at the end of the day, like what psychics are doing. Like when an intuitive person is like, oh, I'm reading the energy of 2026, they're like holding their attention on energy and pulling the information. So I learned to do that. Of course, now if you like looking at like my astrology chart, there's a lot of signs that I am naturally intuitive, but I by no means like showed any signs when I was a kid. Like I always say that my parents would have sent me to like a nun convent or something to like get the demons out of me if I showed any signs of being psychic. So I basically like trained myself through books, through like just different experiences. I got into like the metaphysics stuff, like spirit guides and, Akashic records and all those things. And then I started just attracting people naturally and accidentally doing readings on them. And when like the word got out that I was doing something, more people came my way. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was very scared because I was a fashion and beauty editor. So I didn't have on my bingo card that I was going to be like a psychic, and that I was going to make money this way. I had just met my husband, my now husband, and he married a fashion and beauty editor, like not a psychic. So like a year into our marriage, I was like, oh, by the way, like I think I'm going to start this business and I'm going to start doing readings. And I was just the readings were catching my attention so much and the people kept coming and I just couldn't stop it. And that happened because I was so dedicated to like following my soul and like that was where my soul was calling me to in that moment. So I got very good at readings and then became very known for readings. And then my work brought me here.
Yes, beautiful. Wow. And so where do we go to find our intuition? Rockefeller Center, or where do we need to?
Go to the loudest place possible. Yeah. So I think like first, we kind of had to remind ourselves that we are mind, body, spirit, right? Like I always say, like the body is like the car, the mind is like your engine, and then your spirit should be the driver. But definitely, like we come into this life forgetting everything. We forget that we're a soul. We look at our parents and we're like, no, I'm the child of these parents. I'm from this area. We give ourselves all sorts of labels. And at some point, to me, I feel like that breaking point, that awakening point is usually a moment when you like wake up one day and you're like, this reality, like, I don't like it. Like, I'm in the wrong movie. Like, this is not me. Like, this is not a full expression of who I am. And a lot of people feel lost when that happens. But the truth is, that's the first time that your soul is actually like making contact. So when you start to meet the soul, yeah, it can be very disorienting. It'll often ask you to like change a lot of things in your life. And that's scary because the life we live, we've like built it off of our ego and our protections and all, and our blueprints and all that stuff. But we're really meant to live true to the soul, like to what the soul's path is. So we first have to kind of like be aware, like be okay with that. Like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm something more than just this mind and body. And then once we, once we believe that and understand that, then we have to find quiet places to actually hear that soul. Like, and that it doesn't mean like a physical quiet place, but quiet time. Because what's interesting about your intuition and your soul, it is not going to be louder than the other voices in your life. It will not scream over like the media that you're watching. It is not going to yell over like, what your friend is telling you to do. It's actually like much more chill and like quiet and subtle because it's like a quiet confidence. That's what the soul is. So it does not need to prove itself. It is not going to jump over other things and it will patiently wait for you. the first thing is really like recognizing what are the voices that you're listening to right now. Are you listening to other experts or media or your parents or your society or whatever? And then really seeing if you can disconnect from that for a little bit. One exercise I did, and I've done this exercise many times in my life, but when I moved to LA after leaving Miami and breaking off that wedding, I did like a detox of like listening to other people. Like I did a whole year of being like, I'm so grateful for the people that want to give me advice and like have their opinions. I know like people mean well, but I need to like get strong in my own voice. So for 1 year, like I'm not going to listen to other people. And if I do listen to other people, right? Like I'm listening to a podcast or, we need inspiration. Of course, you can't like not hear other people, but I'm only going to hear those people for the messages that are for me. So you might be listening to this podcast and maybe this podcast is 1 hour. It does not mean that everything that we say in this 1 hour is absolutely for you, but there may be something that I say or that, yeah, you're like, yes, no, it's true. That I say that like really stands out to you, like almost like it's in bold letters. That's your intuition using another person to reflect your own intuition. So we can definitely like listen to people's advice and, and be with other people, but we want to see ourselves and use them as a reflection for like what is true for me rather than handing off our power to all these different people and just saying like, oh, whatever they say is correct. And we were talking about this off camera that like nowadays we just like live in a place of so much information or like even the political talk of what is this side, these guys are bad guys and these guys are good guys. And it's really hard to even know like what is right or wrong. And that's the reminder that like, how do you hear yourself within all of that? That's the thing that we're really trying to look for.
Yeah, it is so loud. Everything on social media today and the politics and everything, it seems like it's amplifying and I feel like it's getting more and more distracting and the algorithms are getting better and better and they're specifically are made for you to capture your to cater to your triggers. And so if the voice of the intuition is not louder than those, then it's very easy to get carried away with the noise outside. So what kind of rituals or how do you carve out time for yourself to listen in?
So remember that the algorithm is unnatural. It's like an unnatural environment. So if you really want to listen to your intuition, you definitely want to balance your relationship to social media with also like in-person interactions because in-person interactions like picking up your kid from school and talking to one of the moms or going to that candle making class and talking to another person from your neighborhood, that is actually very natural. That is where like the soul can get things through to you. Like, oh, that candle girl that you just met, she told you about this like really cool like place to go on vacation and like you're meant to go on vacation there, right? So you don't have to necessarily like go on top of the mountain and like be completely by yourself to hear your intuition, but you need to be in a natural environment to hear your intuition. So the way we want to look at social media or just media in general is to understand that it's a good lesson for me to like take things in and then see what is true for me. Like really let myself be like, oh, I'm going to listen to this, even this person that I love so much, but like really see what is actually true for me. And that's why I'm using it. But if you're just like, oh, I'm going to get a sign from my Instagram, whatever feed, it's your algorithm, like you said. Like it is just like reflecting back some certain behaviors. It's very unnatural. The soul can get through there, but like very, very rarely. So we want to kind of balance that and make our consumption natural as well.
Mm.
Because as humans, we have always consumed media. That is a natural part. We have always consumed information. That is very natural to this lifetime, but the amount of consumption may be unnatural at this point. The amount of like interaction or whatever may be unnatural, and that's for us to figure out like what is like my most natural consumption and when does it get unnatural. So I'm definitely like I will unplug for a while, and then when I feel called to be entertained or to get information, I'll go and do that. But I am not like trying to consistently like listen to something. And I also trust that even like if I get caught up in a series, like a Netflix series, like I trust that like I've attracted that and there's like something there for me. But then when it ends, if there's like, I'm not like forcing myself to find another series, let's say.
Yeah.
So really going with that natural flow of like what is calling me rather than using media to kind of to totally turn myself off. Like I want to actually be awake and engaged. And that's
Mm.
when I know media is like purposeful for me.
So you know the term Biblians, oh gosh, I can't even say it. Bibliancy or something like that, where you open a book and then you get an answer. I don't know. It will be in the show notes. But when you open a book to get an answer, and sometimes it works, some people do use social media to do that, where they put an intention and they're waiting for something to show up. Do you think there's any value in that or nothing at all?
Yeah, I think that if you are in tuned, that you can like decipher like what is not for you and what's for. And that is a type of intuition. So, for example, like I can go into the loudness of my Instagram reel. I'm sorry, my Instagram algorithm. And like you said, like maybe I'm like, you know what, I really need a message about whether I should move or not. I have to be able to like go through that and know that when something is for me, because I've studied my intuition, something is for me, then like the message that's for me is like really bright. It feels like I almost say like thick, like it feels like bolded. And I know that that message is for me when there was like 70 others that I was able to say like, oh no, that's not it because like this is the one that's like lighting up for me the most.
Mm.
So if you have a handle of your own intuitive language, as I like to call it, then like go for it, you know, but you might be in a place where you haven't like developed your own intuitive language and then that's when like something like social could be overwhelming.
What do you think about getting answers through ChatGPT? Because I see a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I've been playing with that too to like kind of make up my decision as well. I see chat ChatGPT reminds me a little bit of, well, first of all, it's definitely programmed to be, it's programmed to be that friend that you call when you want to be told what you want to be told. So, like, if I, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm like, I want somebody to tell me to quit my job because that's really what I want to do. It might not be the best thing, like, it might not be in my highest and greatest truth, but I know that if I call my mom, she's going to tell me to quit that job. I'm going to call her. And ChatGPT is kind of like programmed that way as well, that like you kind of lead it to tell you like what you want to hear. So there's definitely that happening. But I also see ChatGPT similar to how I just explained social media, but the best way I can explain ChatGPT intuitively feels like a deck of cards. So you have a deck of cards, right? And let's say you're using the deck of cards to understand, to reflect the intuition that's within you, because the answer is within you. We use these things to reflect what is within me, not to hand off my power, not like, oh, the cards are going to tell me everything. It's really that I'm going to pull a card. And from looking at that card, I'm like hearing what's within me. And if you've ever used a deck of cards and they've really helped you, but then all of a sudden they stop helping you and they stop working, that's just a sign to like get off of the cards, like that you don't need any further guidance. On the contrary, you need more action, right? Intuition, like, is going to give you a few little breadcrumbs and then you go, you follow your intuition and then you come back for more. But if you kind of just sit there and you want ChatGPT to like hype you and tell you all these things without any action, then it's like not working for you anymore. So like you have to also know like when what you're getting is like crazy and like more confusing. And it's probably because like the initial intuition that you actually got, you haven't followed through on it yet.
So it's about being discerning and it's about coming with a certain intention. And even now when I'm looking at social media, I have to remind me, hey, this is like the Truman Show. This is programmed. They're like feeding me whatever I need to hear. And I'm really going to be discerning with any information. And then also all of a sudden when you think about it, you see the patterns and it lessens the effect on you. You're like, okay, and now I'm gonna get this, now I'm gonna get that, and then it becomes even kind of boring. And I think the more interesting thing is when you are in an awakened state, when you are connected, when you are all of a sudden, oh, I'm home, I'm listening to this still silent voice of mine, and I'm guided, and I'm walking in the right path, and it's not the noise of the outside. I'm back to myself. What do you think? How can we ground more in ourselves, in our intuition, and go back to that place where we are connected to source, connected to God creation, whatever you call it, and get direct messages and guidance and healing?
I'm going to answer that question, but I first wanted to like just when you were talking about kind of like, yeah, like the propaganda and like the other ulterior motives and like all the information, whether somebody's trying to sell you something or they're trying to whatever, like looking at content.
We are the product. We are always being sold to, especially on social media, whether it's politically or like this is like it's like a sales platform. Even if it's just an influencer who wants you to like them. We're the product.
It is. And listen, that there are plenty of things that I need sold to me and that I need that are definitely going to make my life better. So like, there's nothing wrong with like being sold to for sure, but it's when we think that like that there's not something that they're selling. And I want to mention that like that is just a reminder of how powerful you are. Even the quote unquote most powerful people in the world, let's say like our presidents and our leaders of the world, they recognize that your attention and your agreement is what makes them powerful. Like you're actually the power, like not them. You get what I mean? Like they still need you to buy into like whatever they are selling you. Without you, there is nothing. So when you understand that, you're like, oh, sheesh, like I have this really powerful thing, which is my focus, my decision. Like you get to decide what you're listening to, what you're, buying into. And when you don't, like that person has less power because you are the power. So like when you recognize that, you'll go into the stuff like very differently. Like it's like when you're going into an agreement and the truth is like you have more to offer than they do.
Hmm.
Because like they're trying to get what you have inside. So it's important for you to like flip the script and to understand like you are the powerful one.
Yeah, I like that. That's a beautiful way of looking at it. I've
Yeah.
got the
No, it's
power. Dun, dun,
yeah,
dun.
yeah. Like your focus is like first of all, our focus is our power, right? Like if I focus on I don't know, making $1 million or something like that. And that's all I focus on. Like, oh, I'm going to make $1 million. Right. But when my focus gets diluted, like, oh, this person wants me to go on this vacation with them, or this person, wants me to help them with blah, blah, blah. And that will like little by little dilute me from like my goal, and it's just like a diluting of the power of my focus. And so at the end of the day, like your focus is your most powerful thing because your focus is actually what creates your life. So
Mm.
what you're focusing on is created. And then of course when your focus is so diluted by all these different messages, then nothing is created and you're like, wow, my life is boring and nothing's happening. And it's probably because your focus is in a bunch of different places.
Mm.
So, anyways, that's a talk on your power. But as for like getting back in touch with your own intuition, your own voice, I think that there's always a little bit of a detox process. So, kind of just deciding, okay, wow, I've been listening to all these other things. I've been listening to my partner, I've been listening to whatever media, and I'm just going to detox from those things. And I'm basically just going to take those voices. They're still going to exist. It's not like they're going to go away, but I'm going to take those voices and I'm going to take them down from the pedestal. I'm not like my voice is meant to be like the strongest voice and like the one that I can trust the most. So I'm just going to at first like realize the detoxing is not so much that I'm going to go and run away to a mountain and leave my kids and leave my husband. It's more just like, okay, we're not giving so much attention to like all those voices. We're going to try to hear myself.
You just gave me an idea where you can do kind of an NLP exercises and have, I don't know, 20 pedestals and put little bubbles with whoever is on that pedestal. And then, like a little kitty, you just go and you take the ball down, like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like the way I do it in meditation is I imagine those voices and I put them in like a jar and then I close the jar. So like I can't like hear that voice anymore. And then I'm like trying to hear.
That's what I do with my son. My son loves to talk at bedtime. He loves to tell me everything, and I'm homeschooling. We talk all day, okay? So he's very cute. He's 6 and he's adorable. And he likes to talk when it's bedtime. And I'm like, yeah, okay, listen, now we're taking all the talking and we're putting it in the talking jar. The talking jar is closed, and here we're just opening the very deep sleep jar and happy dreams. And then and it really helps actually.
Yeah, I do a similar thing to him, to Ethan as well. I have a 7-year-old and isn't it funny how like everything you want to get out of your kids, you can get it out of them in like the 5 minutes before they go to sleep because they're like trying to delay the sleep process so much that they'll like tell you anything to like keep you there. So
Yeah, but that's really great to put it in a jar and in a bottle because our mind works with symbolism, with sign, with metaphors, with symbolism. So when we give our mind that symbolism of the jar or taking the bowl out of the pedestal or all those, I mean, it might sound like a fun game, but for our brain, it's actually real and it's super effective in releasing those voices.
I love that. And that also like goes back to the idea that like your mind is not the driver of this life, but it's such a great tool. And like it's like an engine, it's the engine. So like you can use your mind to like help you. And also your mind can take over situations as well. So that's like where the problem happens. But doing something like that, those exercises are amazing. I do a lot, like a lot of the intuition that I teach is through guided meditations. You'd be surprised that if you bring yourself into these guided meditations and give yourself the space for like an imagery or something to come forward, like it will be delivered to you. So that it's like, it's very in you. It's very capable, but you first have to kind of decide that you're going to go there. I'd say also like setting the intention that you're going to turn up the volume of your voice.
I like that. Ooh, that's great. Because everybody's talking about how intuition is that silent voice. And I think that I myself already, I'm buying into that. Oh, intuition. I have to listen so hard to that little voice of the intuition. Where are you? You're so quiet. Yeah, turn on the volume. So simple and brilliant. Thank you for that, Nick.
Yeah, we've just turned it down, because like it's like a muscle. We've given other voices more importance in our life rather than the voice that's within us. So really being like, I'm going to turn that volume up. And like, to me, that's going to be the sound that I look for the most. So let's say you have 7 phones in front of you and they all have different ringtones. Like you're going to realize that like phone number 3 has a sound, a ringtone, and that ringtone is my true inner voice. So eventually you can actually block out all the other phone ringtones because you're only listening for like number 3. So
Mm.
also definitely being like, oh, you remember that time that I definitely like followed my intuition and it like sounded like this? And when I say sound, I don't mean the way that us humans understand sound, the way you're understanding my voice right now. Like that, this is a different wave of energy that comes through. And it can also, in your case, be a feeling. Like you're going to be like, oh, I remember when I felt so strongly that I wasn't supposed to put my son in this school. Like I just felt it. I just knew, I felt it. So you might not be hearing it, right? Like there's different ways we can hear our intuition. We can know our intuition. We can feel our intuition, and we can also see.
For me, sometimes it's annoying, but also visions. Sometimes I hear, but I think yeah, the strongest is the know, like a knowingness, knowing and visual, I think, I guess.
Yeah. And the thing is like when you're in that present moment with your intuition, it's all happening at the same time. So it's kind of like hard to tell the difference. But there's been a time that you did hear your intuition. So you can go back to that time and just journal a little bit about like, what did it feel like? Did it sound? Did I know? Like if it had a smell, if it had a texture, if it like, what did that really feel like? And then that's the ringtone that we're looking for. So you're like, okay, I remember how that felt. I remember how that sounds. So now in my day to day life, I'm going to look for that same just texture again. And like, I'm going to start to train myself to like have an eye and have a feeling and a knowing for that sound. And that's like what I'm looking for. And that's my true voice.
What's the difference between your intuition, your higher self, your spirit guides?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that there's the trinity for us. So it's like there is the human, there is the soul that has lived many lifetimes and is like having a human experience. So like the soul is the one that's like inside the body and trying, it's the soul is the one that gives us the intuitive information, all that kind of stuff. And then the third level is the higher self. And the higher self is it's your, it's like almost like your soul, but perfect. It's in the future. It has like, it's completely whole because the higher self is the part of you that is part of the divine. So
Mm-hmm.
it is like as close as possible to the one, which is we are all one or whatever, but we break up into all these little different pieces so that we can better understand ourselves. What are those like little dolls that like, there's like one inside of one inside of one? That's kind of, I forget what they're called. They're like,
Like a babushka, like a Russian babushka, like a Russian doll, one inside of the other.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I always feel like we're kind of like that. So
Babushka. I know 4 words in Russian. Спасибо, хорошо, да.
oh, yeah, very impressive. So then, yeah, so the higher self is like when we think about like our energy and connecting high, like it's the divine within ourselves. So we're like trying to get like divine wisdom and, the God wisdom is like from the higher self. But then your soul, which is like living this human life, is still like living in its expressions and having like many different lifetimes and, all that kind of stuff. So you can decide who you want to connect to. If you connect like only to the higher self, you will bypass a lot of like the human stuff that you're supposed to do. Like you'll kind of like not be grounded enough. You'll be like, oh, what's the point of raising these kids? Like, I'm just a soul, like living, but you'll get like,
Yeah, I know. I had a period of time like that. I used to go to Nam Yoga in Santa Monica and used to do lots of breath work. And like I think after a month or two of breath work, I was so spacey and disconnected from this reality and everything was really beautiful, but I was just like, oh my God, I'm just like, wow, nom 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 namaste. It's amazing, but I had to go I had to find the balance for sure. I guess it was a part of connecting to those higher realms through breath work, because when you do breath work, you connect to the God molecule. It's like a DMT trip where you really are in different realms and very highly connected.
yes. And I think like in the spiritual space, like we see that so much, but I find staying in that place disrespectful to the soul because I feel like I do not know why, but my soul wanted to have a human experience. So I am going to respect that my soul wanted to do the human thing. There
Yes.
must be something for me as a human. Like I am not going to pretend that the higher self is greater or smarter than like this actual experience.
I love that. I love that because a lot of people are talking about connecting to your higher self, and it seems like your higher self is a separate thing than who you are, and maybe a better thing than like I wish I was just living as my higher self my whole day. But I love what you're saying, where you're everything, and everything has just all your parts are beautiful, just like all your emotions are beautiful. Like everything that you experience, there is beauty in it. And when we embrace the whole, we are experiencing more. We're connected more to the whole from above, from below, from everywhere.
And I think like your soul chose your dad, it chose your partner, it chose all those things. And even if some of those things are hard, even if where I live is hard, maybe my culture is hard, like I believe that like my soul set up some of those things and that the my spiritual growth is within those very human challenges. So to me, everybody's like, "Oh, well, now that I have my awakening, how can I like you said, like live in my higher self or I feel like I hate this life and I hate, whatever." And I'm like,
It's so much nicer to float in different realms than to, I don't know, do your laundry.
yeah, and it's like I don't know about you, Orion, but like I like some of the most like spiritual moments in my life have been like the most human and kind of dirty, right? Like my husband, who I've been with for many years now, there was a time where he had an addiction that I didn't know about, and very Miami story. And I found out, and I felt very betrayed, and all I wanted to do was leave the relationship. I was like, I'm out. Like, this guy lied to me. Like, this is crazy. This is ridiculous. I've been raising these kids, and he's been out like drinking and doing all these things. And in that moment, the easiest thing would have been to leave. And the hardest thing was to stay. And my soul was like, girl, you're going to stay for this. Remember the last one that it was about leaving? Like, the first story that I shared was about leaving, right? It was like, and that was hard in that moment. It would have been easier to stay. And in this situation, it did a flip on me. And it was like, you're going to stay and you're going to like get the growth of this experience. And I did. And I have a completely different marriage now, and a totally different husband, and a beautiful life. And it was because I followed my soul, and I understood that there was magic and gold in this like very hard human thing, but it gave me the most soul growth that I've ever seen. Like, that's where I got the most spiritual growth. It's not like from, meditating and breath work. Those things are good. Those are tools for sure. But that's not where I'm going to get like the wisdom. Like, my soul came to this lifetime to expand itself, and I am going to respect and honor that. So I'm not going to check out.
It's very easy to be spiritual when everything is easy. When you're on the beach and the sunset and you're surrounded by friends, and like, I agree with you, the most spiritual thing that we can do is never give up. Is where we hit rock bottom is just to climb with our nails, just climb up and fight for what we love, and fight for who we are, and fight for ourselves and for our values.
Yeah. And ask for people to love you and to change and to be like, I deserve this. I'm worthy of this, and like, and let like people meet you and just get that uncomfortable growth. And it's like from the human experiences, not from a guided meditation. I was definitely prepared to work through things with my husband because of my spiritual training. So I had a ton of tools. I knew what to do. I knew who to call. I knew how to shift my energy. I knew.
Yeah, but nothing prepares you for something like that. It doesn't matter. Just like nothing prepares you for grief, any grief. And when you go through that, that's a real test. That's like all the fluff aside. Like, now it's hard. How are you going to show up?
Yeah, and I get it. I know we don't like want it, but that's like the expansion. It's in those things. Yeah, even like,
You can always choose to be a victim or a co-creator at any point.
and you were just talking about like how you put your son to sleep, and like, I think that's your soul self like living a human life, like, and then there's a fun thing.
I love that. I love those moments. I'm like, they're so fleeting, and he's growing up so fast, and have those little moments, and every moment is like, I want to bottle every moment. If I had a bottle for those beautiful moments that I can drink of every day for the rest of my life, I would, so this is what we got. We got those moments, and those moments are gifts, and we can think about the future or worry about the past and miss all those beautiful moments in between. But why?
Yeah, and I think that is like what the soul loves about Earth, right? Like, Earth, first of all, humans have emotions with like, when you're in your soul self, when you're just like in the energy of yourself, like, you don't have those things there. You don't have like emotions. You don't have like these physical representations of like what we have right now. So I think that that's why there's a lot of souls that are excited. Like, believe it or not, all of us are excited to come to Earth before it actually like happens. And then once we're here, especially some souls that are from like higher consciousness places, or maybe haven't like had a lot of reincarnations on Earth, they do end up here and they're like, damn, this place like is horrible. It's like so it's so different. It's like so
Take me,
different from
beam
like,
me up, Scotty.
yeah, totally. Like, I always say like, ET phone home, like, take me out of here. So there are souls that have a harder, and we see a lot of high consciousness souls coming as of late. I think that our children's generation, they are definitely like much higher consciousness, but they are pushing like their parents to like make the way for the kind of world that they're going to live in, because like if they were adults right now, they would not be able to like handle it. They're much like higher consciousness than we are, but we are, but the Earth is trying to evolve. So that's why, yeah, like, some souls are really uncomfortable, but the souls that are the most uncomfortable are here to bring in the new earth. So like really being like, okay, like if this environment feels harsh, how do I do my own healing work and like kind of figure myself out and then live in this higher frequency so that the earth, all of us together, as we like keep living in that higher frequency, the earth can then become what it's trying to become. So it's uncomfortable because we are ushering in a new earth, a new way of being, a new way of living. Like the human itself is trying desperately to evolve, and it's a little clunky.
That's beautiful. I like what you just shared. And I would love to talk to you more, but I want to be respectful of your time. This was an extraordinary conversation. Thank you so much. Before we say goodbye for now, and I would love to have you on the show again, what are your three top tips to living a stellar life? And where can people find you, find your app, your books, the community, everything?
Thank you, Orion. It's been the best. I really enjoyed talking to you too. So, for my top three tips would be to really be open to first listening to the voice, then trusting it, like even if it's taking you into the unknown, and then following it. Like if we can live a life of like, I listen, I trust it, and I follow it. I listen, I trust it, and I follow it. That's when your life becomes very true to you, where you're like, this is the movie. Like, this is like really what I want to live. That's when it happens. But we have to be in that constant cycle of like listening to it, trusting it, and following it. If you like my voice and my work, I also have a podcast called Soul Led Living, where I do a lot of fun, intuitive messages and predictions every month. So those are always fun. And you can find me on Instagram and YouTube under Nikki Novo. And yeah, I have a ton of different ways that if you want to go deeper into your intuition and trusting and all that, we have a ton of different programs, but you'll find it when you find me.
Beautiful. Nikki, thank you. It was a pleasure. And thank you for everything that you do. And thank you for the beautiful wisdom you shared with us today. And thank you, listeners. Remember, be open to listen, trust, and follow your intuition and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.